Have you ever cared about somebody, like really, really cared about them, but still somehow you feel like you just keep messing it up somehow? Like you are trying, you are giving it 110%, but things still get missed, things get misunderstood, or taken in the wrong way completely. And then you're sitting there thinking, why is this so much harder than it should be? If you have ADHD, there's a reason for this. So let's talk about it. This is Wild Focus. I'm not going to lie. I've been looking forward to this one for quite some time now, and it's probably going to be one of my favorite episodes. And it's because today we're talking about relationships, and we're going to be sticking in the the field of mainly relationships with your partner, but we're also going to talk about friendships as well too, because ADHD does not stay in one lane. It shows up in how you communicate, how you connect with people, and sometimes it shows up in ways that you may not even realize it. Let's start with the science behind this because ADHD is not just about being distracted. It's not about those squirrel moments. It's a real difference in how your brain manages things. It's your executive function, basically your brain's management system, if you will. And what that system does, and when it actually works differently, it affects relationships. Research actually shows that adults with ADHD are more likely to experience miscommunication, conflict, and frustrations within relationships. And it's not because they don't care, it's because their brain just processes things differently. One of those biggest pieces is dopamine. In a neurotypical brain, doing something helpful like just like doing the dishes or remembering anniversaries, stuff like that, that gives a small sense of reward, that feeling of like, man, that felt good, and I know the other person appreciated that as well. But for an ADHD brain, sometimes that reward just isn't there. So the brain just doesn't tag it as important, and which means that you forget. Again, not because you don't care, but because your brain just did not hold on to it. And this can show up in several ways throughout a relationship. That's when it comes to like impulse control. So it's like saying things before filtering them, memory, things just are instantly forgotten. And all that can add up. But I know that we can't talk about relationships without first talking about friendships. And it's because honestly, this is where that ADHD dopamine cycle can really create very painful habits for us. Now, let me ask you, have you ever been on a high? Like you're feeling great, you're talking to a friend, and you start making those massive plans. You're definitely going to take that hiking trip this weekend. You're definitely going to go and play golf. You're 100% going to grab dinner on Tuesday. In that moment, the dopamine is peaking. You are at an all time high. You are all fucking in. But then Tuesday rolls around, that dopamine surge, poof, gone. It's been replaced by what experts have called the dopamine drop. And now the thought of getting dressed, driving across town, putting all the golf clubs in the back, engaging in small talk at dinner, it feels like you're trying to climb Mount Everest in fucking flip flops. It just, it's not happening. Now, this leads to a few habits that can really hurt our friendships. The last minute cancellation. Come on. If you're listening to this and you have ADHD, you know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to cancellations. It's not that you don't like your friends anymore. Your brain is just extremely understimulated and you're physically exhausted by the idea of performing socially. Then there's the out of sight, out of mind. And this is a big struggle because if a friend is not physically there by us constantly, or they're not popping up in notifications, our brain just forgets to maintain that connection. We can go a week, a month, 6 months before we even think about reaching out to them. And again, it's not that we don't care. It's not that we're even not, we're still thinking about that person, but that internal reminder to actually reach out just never fired off. And then there's what's called the collector of new favorite people. This is for us with ADHD. This is like getting a new hobby. It's where you buy all the gear and you hyper focus on it for a while. We do this with friends too. So if we make a new friend, we text them constantly for about 3 weeks. And again, poof, the novelty wears off and we accidentally ghost them for the next 3 weeks. And I can tell you, and this is going to be no shock to any of my friends listening to this, but definitely done the last minute cancellation. I get in those modes where I'm on a high, something's feeling great in the moment, and we make plans and we are like, we're locked in. And then it comes around and we just can't think to bring ourselves to it. So there's a cancellation. And I'll say there are definitely times where we throw in an excuse, right? I can't do it. My dog's sick. I don't know. Think of it. I know if you're listening to this, you have probably done this as well too. Actually, be kind of funny if you don't mind. If you are listening to this, put in and you follow me on social media. Put in one in the comment section. What have been some of your excuses of why you have canceled that aren't obviously true? Like, I just want to hear them. I'm curious. And again, we do this not because we don't care about our friends. Just sometimes we just can't physically bring ourselves to follow through on that. And the only way here, and it's the only way that we can actually fix this in any relationship is just have that open communication. If you have ADHD, I know it can get looked down on from time to time, mainly with the older generation, but find a way to be open about your struggles with ADHD. And so when it comes time to make plans or follow through with plans, you don't make up an excuse when you want to cancel. At that point, hopefully they can understand why our brains work this way. And you can simply say, hey, I'm just not feeling it today. I'm sorry. Can we try something different? There's going to be a few options here that I'll talk about in a second, but I think that open communication and owning the fact that our brains work differently can really limit hurting our relationships with people. Now, if you're the friend of an ADHDer, please know that this disappearance is not a sort of friend demotion by any means. We are not bored of you. It's just our brains are currently unplugged from that maintenance port when it comes to relationships. And if you are the one that has ADHD, stop the cycle of fantasy planning. And this is what I was talking about a few moments ago of things that we can do to really limit these cancellations. So one is simply stop committing to things when that dopamine is 110%, because you're truly setting your future self up for just a massive crash. Instead, we can do things like practice low stakes socializing. Instead of a big dinner or a big weekend trip, suggest something smaller. Instead of dinner, maybe it's a 20-minute coffee date meetup, whatever you want to do. Something that it's a lot harder for your brain to talk you out of a like 20 minutes of your evening versus the entire night. But when we think about friendships and the ones that we've had for a while, we don't start out doing some of this stuff because the other side of ADHD is that it doesn't make things harder. It makes things feel so much more intense. And when we connect with someone, we don't do it halfway. We lock the fuck in and we hyper focus on people. That's dopamine. Newness is a stimulant. So early on, everything feels electric. Call it the honeymoon stage. But over time, that naturally fades. And this is normal, but for an ADHD brain, that shift feels like the floor was dropped out from underneath you. You are going from a high stimulation to calmness. And sometimes without even realizing it, we start chasing that feeling all over again. Sometimes we create tension just to feel something. And this is where relationships can really hit a rocky area and issues start to arise. And it's because with ADHD from the outside, it can look like we don't care, even if that's the furthest thing from the truth. But it can show up in things like interrupting because your brain has already finished their sentence and you're afraid that you're going to lose that thought. It can show up like zoning out. Even if we're looking right at you, it's because our brain just went somewhere else completely. And we're probably thinking about something completely random mid conversation. For me, I know it shows up in ways that I find are hilarious, but the person I'm talking to may or may not think it's funny. For example, if you are talking to me and within your sentence, you say something that is a lyric in a song, I'm going to finish that song lyric probably through the entire rest of the song. And when I'm done, I will look back and either see that the person is giving me that laugh of, yeah, awesome, which we all know means fuck off. I guess I'm not that important to you. Or they have the just transparent look of, cool, glad this conversation means something to you. Which sucks. But then, I mean, once in a while, you get the other ones that will either like join in and laugh, and you're like, "Hey, ADHD brother, what's up?" Or they just truly understand you and are like, "Yeah, love that song." Back to what I was saying. That shows up in me in my daily life. I want to say, but when I do this, I it's not that it's intentional, but to them, it feels like they don't matter, which is probably farthest from the truth. Now, I will fully admit, just like everybody else, sometimes we aren't fully drawn into conversations, and that's where more likely I'm going to go off and do this. But there are times where even if it is the most important conversation to me, you say something that like triggers like a memory or a song lyric or anything like that, my brain is going to go there quite often. And I try to do better at drawing myself back in. But again, depending on the song, man, you might get a whole show. So just sit back and enjoy, I guess. But this gap is where like a lot of frustration can truly build in relationships. And now I want to talk about something that hits just as hard as this, and that's RSD. And that means rejection sensitive dysphoria. And if you have felt this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Your emotional response is turned all the way freaking up. Something small like, hey, you left the lights on, or hey, you left the garage door open. Man, that can really feel like you're failing and or even worse, just you're not enough. And your brain reacts fast to those moments before logic can even catch up. For me, I can identify when this hits when there's been several times, more than what I would like to admit, but where I have placed a pickup order uh, and I do it from multiple people. And sometimes either their order will get messed up because of me forgetting to say what that specific thing was that they wanted or did not want, or the restaurant or whatever they did it, they messed it up somehow. But when I get back and if their order is wrong, I feel like a wave of disappointment just crushes me. And every time their response is like, hey, it's not that big of a deal, but for me it is, and I've let that ruin my day several times, and where I just feel like, man, I can't get anything right. And it's just like, God damn it, we have ketchup at home. It's not that heavy. But for some reason it is. And I have done better of catching myself before, but there's still times where it can get me down for much longer than what it truly should. But in those moments, you either get defensive or you shut down, and neither one of those helps, and it's not a great look in the moment too, depending on how you're portraying how you're feeling. So it's important to identify those, and even if you slip just a little bit, it's fine. Have that communication and take a beat and get back to get back to normal, get back to calm. For this next part, I wanna get into something that's a little bit uncomfortable, and that's ADHD and infidelity in relationships. We have to talk about why some of us stray, and whether it's a physical infidelity or those in our heads harmless, long winded conversations with people that are not our partners. Now, research has shown that adults with ADHD are 3 times more likely to report a history of infidelity compared to those without ADHD. But if we're being honest, it's not usually because we're assholes. There's definitely cases where we are, but it it's not always that we're bad people. It's not that we don't love our partners. It's just it's often what experts have called the dopamine seeking trap. And if you've listened to previous episodes of the show, I've said that our brains are starving for dopamine. Well, nothing, and I mean nothing, provides that bigger hit of dopamine than a new connection with somebody. Think about it. The chase, the giddy rush when your phone pings and it's a new message from somebody. Actually, let's be honest, when your phone vibrates, because you're probably trying to hide the fact that you're talking to somebody new, that dopamine and adrenaline hitting your system feels like a stimulant. And then we can do what's called like a fantasy. It's our brains are world class at hyper focusing on new. We can spend hours fantasizing about what this other person is like, and then losing sight of our real world relationships that are right there in front of us. And it's tough to admit, but sometimes like if our partner is not in front of us, we struggle to keep like their emotional needs and feelings present in our minds. It's not to say that they don't exist. It's just the now is so much louder than the then. But I want to say, if you've been here or if you're here right now, I'm not giving you an excuse. ADHD is an explanation, not a fucking hall pass. There's ownership that we all need to take, and we need to stand by it. But once you realize that your brain is just looking for a fix, you can stop looking for it in other people. You can start to find ways to build novelty into your life, whether that's a new hobby together or a certain date night every single week that you in that moment play that back and forth of this person gets to choose where we go for appetizers. This person gets to choose where we go for our main course, dessert, so on. It's the guessing game, the new each time can really return that novelty and that dopamine back to our current and present relationships. Then there's just the pure honesty of it. It's just telling your partner when you're feeling understimulated so you can work together to figure out what you need to regain that feeling again. Understanding the dopamine seeking trap is the only way that you can make sure that you stay out of it. So what do we do with all of this? We don't fix it perfectly, but we build around it. So if we think about the memory part of this, if it's not written down, it does not exist. So we can share calendars with our partners, with our friends. We can share reminders. We can build systems together around communication that can help us really bridge these gaps and make sure that we don't put our relationships in a even more rocky area than what it could already be in, or we can prevent it before we even get to that point. Make sure to find time to wind down. Like when you get home, give yourself some space. If there's not enough time from your commute home from work, then when you get there, tell your partner, I just need 5 minutes to reset, because that transition, it truly matters to us. We need that transition time to reset. And this can be after work. It could be when you're waking up. It could be as you're trying to fall asleep. Transitions tend to be a little bit harder with people that have ADHD. So being vocal about what you need in those moments can really help prevent future issues. And everybody needs a safe word. I mean, not Yes, I guess everybody, yes, please have a safe word if you need it. But what I'm talking about is a safe word for overstimulation. It's something that um, you need in times where your brain is just fucking done. There's no more left to give. There's too much noise, too much interaction. And having a way to say, I just need a minute, it can really help prevent bigger problems. But one of the last things I want to say is during this process, you're going to fuck it up a little bit. And that's real. You're gonna forget something. But what matters is how fast you own it, how you communicate it, and how you adjust next time. That is what builds trust within relationships. ADHD isn't just a struggle, it can also bring something different. It can bring energy, passion, creativity. We're the ones who plan random trips. We're the ones that come up with an unexpected idea. And we're the ones that show love in ways that people freaking remember. Because when we love with a lot of intensity. So if relationships have felt harder or confusing or even inconsistent, you're not alone. And you're definitely not broken. Your brain is just working in a way that it's a little bit different. It needs a different manual than most. So learn the manual, build the systems, know the traps, and keep fucking showing up because your brain is not broken. It's just, it works different. So learn it and use it. And let's do this together. This is Wild Focus.